A sincerely wonderful good morning, evening, everyone, and welcome to today's stream. My name is Decaf Nvidia. I'm a video game streamer who primarily plays RPG games. I am also a hobby voice actor and singer, so you'll hear me do one or both of those things during the stream. My pronouns are he, they, and right now we're just playing some good old Reverse 1999. We'll be voice acting the Anecdote here, as we usually do, in a minute. I just want to get some things set up beforehand that I kind of forgot about. Like right here, I'm cleaning my glasses because the ring light that I'm using is kind of blinding me. Though it might just be because of the color of the light. So let me change that up. Let's go with the color blue. I think that works for our purposes here. No, ring light's still blinding me. So it might just be lack of sleep. I woke up pretty early today to join Kaji Sensei for his anniversary stream. Let's try.
Sometimes someone looks away just like thee, but no one hath noticed it. Bonjour.
Comment allez-vous?
Good morning. Someone is practicing how to rotate the plate on the tip of the sword and keep balance. In the age when someone lived, breakfast is not customary. However, thy meal looks so delicious that someone would like to have some grease for himself.
Seems to have a bit of a higher pitch.
Are you worried about going bald if you stay up late? Someone hath an ancient secret recipe from my lord. Oh, please do not look at the portrait of his grandson. Someone believes there is no necessary connection between the two. Many years ago, on a starry night, an old friend drove to the moon. This may surprise thee, but even an elderly armor remembers things past once in a while.
Okay. I think I got the general gist of it. We'll just have to do our best. T and V. Chapter 1. In days of yore, there was one such night. The ninth virtue. Oh, yeah, not chapter, parts. Keep forgetting. Pine Palm Forests. The drizzle, which had fallen for several days without end, stopped just before dark. A horse's hooves thud against the wet earth and moss. Dense branches obscured the sky. Occasionally, pheasants and turtle doves swoop across the trail ahead. This is Pine Mont Forest. Arriving here means their trip is nearing its end.
Stop!
Company, halt! We'll make camp here today. According to the dictates of our order, there is no need to fast today. The deer that Sir Roland hunted can be taken out and roasted. Happy cheers arise from all sides. Only in one corner is there deep silence. There, a figure sits squat. It is Sir Roland, the leader of their band and His Majesty Charlemagne's most trusted defender, soon to be named the Margrave of Brittany, to serve as their paramount lord and ruler. Hang on. Doggo wants to be in. Hi, Doggo. Come on in. Okay. Sir Roland, we expect to arrive at the castle on the morrow. But, sire, if you worry about an ambush, we might continue under the cover of darkness in order to arrive earlier. I'm not sure what accent I'm giving this guy now, but I hope it's Old French. Or close. You know, in the eyes of many in Brittany, your head is now worth more than its weight in gold. The seemingly downcast youth rises to his feet. No, Sir Ganelon, you mistake me. I am thinking. What should I say if I were to find a deer without any eyes? Huh. Interesting. If this is a flashback, I would have thought that Sir Roland here would have been human and then revived as the sword, gloves, and cape. But looks like he might have just been one of the sentient objects here, sentient arcanist objects here in the game ever since. Unless this is him like unable to remember his human form. Hmm. The question alarms Ganelon, who shakes his head slowly. I have no idea. Okay. Sire, enough of these jokes of yours. As for deer, the buck you hunted will soon be prepared. Unless you wish to continue eating only bread and beans, I suggest you join us and have some. Dusk is falling. The knights cut down a few cedars near their camp. In the damp weather, only their dry and oily heartwood is sufficient for starting a fire. Flames leap up, casting a warm orange glow. A young knight in their company brings over the prepared venison. I marinated the meat as best I could in our circumstances. If we had fennel and cardamom, we might sprinkle some on wild roasts. The heat would bring out the flavors nicely.
Of course.
Of course, the best spice would be black pepper and cumin. But such extravagance, you'll probably only taste the likes of those spices again when His Majesty deigns to celebrate with us. The knights skewer the meat at an angle over the fire pit. The buck's fat is rich and heavy. As time passes, it melts in the heat, releasing a wonderful aroma. My lord, look at how the fat is dripping! I can't even remember the last time I had fresh meat. This morning. This morning,
Yes.
did our Lord not transform bread and wine into flesh and blood? 'Tis true, our morning meal was not the Holy Communion, but if unleavened, bread can serve as fitting vessel for our Lord. It must surely be the equal of any venison. A brief, eerie silence follows, only to be broken with a scoff. Shall I laugh now, or wait until after the cardinal has your head on a spike? If I have offended, then I beg your pardon. But let me ask a new question.
Please.
Yes, my lord Margrave? I've told not less than 13 jokes today, and I must imagine that at least one of them was clever. Tell me then, why has no one laughed? Sir Roland, I swear, that pun about the deer was the wittiest I've heard in some time. It was only that, in the moment, I forgot to laugh. But I'm afraid I didn't quite catch the meaning of the joke you made about unleavened bread. Is that so? The cardinal will be busy indeed, young sir. Have you forgotten that the bread of our communion becomes flesh? So then, our bit of bread this morning could well become meat, if our Lord deigned it so. It is a little blasphemous, I must admit.
It's ridiculous.
The devil take you, Roland. These jokes of yours are not funny. A lie repeated 1,000 times still yet does not become the truth. Even if you told 40 jokes, not a one would be funny. Ganelon, I think you must not understand the word diligence. As the proverb says, practice makes perfect. Anything, if pursued persistently enough, will surely lead to success. Rather than discussing the definition of diligence, I would prefer you not turn yourself into a joke. Many small streams make a river, knights. Is there anyone here capable of telling some half-wise decent jokes to our Lord Roland? I have one. This was to be this was to be the very first instance of the Comic Night Festival. Born on a night in the 8th century, a feast among a band of true companions. Each among them had come from a different background and held various positions, but there was no doubt they could serve as excellent judges. After all, a sense of humor doesn't need to be taught. It precedes any rules and structure. The only truth is humor is what makes one laugh. As one knight finishes his joke, another starts the next. And on it goes until at last, a sprinkle of fennel is scattered over the venison, forming a mouth-watering aroma of citrus and pine gum. Well, the meal is ready. The edges of the meat are charred brown and sizzling with grease. The young knight turns chef for the evening and smears fresh wild honey on the meat. Yo, nice. My turn. Ah, but only if we had a pound of Roquefort cheese. Yet the savory aroma of roasted meat serves more than enough. He swallows his piece with a satisfied gulp. Unlike the rest of you, I will tell a proper joke with some theatrical flair, where I shall take on the dramatic personae of one among us. Though this joke may not be to everyone's taste, I would use it to express admiration and praise for a worthy hero. Then, in a booming, practiced voice, he begins his joke. There once was a knight both true and faithful, whose great deeds much envy provokes. But where others would boast, his friends were most grateful, that the worst of his faults were his jokes. I speak, of course, of myself. Roland, your liege on the eve of our arrival in Brittany, for soon I will be named. That is this very day I... An arrow.
Whoa.
Ah! An arrow is pierced through the young knight's throat. The light fades from his eyes as he falls to the ground.
Watch out!
We're under attack!
The sword is drawn.
The sword is drawn! Knights, to your sword! Avenge our comrade! Ooh, that was short. Interesting. Okay, so we're in the past again. Kind of like with some of the other ones, which sure take place before the suitcase. But most likely at some point we'll rejoin the suitcase for sure. Then again, it's entirely possible that we might cut back to the suitcase in an intermission or something. So I will reserve my what do you call this? Final judgment for if or when that happens. Part 2, Nixie Tube. Aging circuitry? A faulty connection? Or perhaps... Huh. What's a Nixie Tube? Sorry, curious. Let me just look that up real quick. Oh, it's the it's the cathode clock display, the kind that you would see in like Steins Gate or other like time travel shows or movies. They're real cool, but also, I remember that they use a lot of energy. Let's go ahead and continue. Oh, thank you. I'll do that before we get started. Or rather, continue. Oh! I forgot! There's actually Nikki's tube here in the background of the suitcase. And lo and behold, I mentioned that we haven't seen the suitcase in this anecdote yet, and here we are, immediately back in the suitcase. So, what do you call this? I spoke too soon. There you go. I don't think this is a story that's about the knight's death, his first death, because supposedly a knight's death or Sir Roland's death is his last stand with 9 other named companions. I don't think it's just like a random band. Though I could be wrong, of course. In the hall, a slender plant stands, with green flower buds clinging to its stalk. Its branches sway in a metered rhythm. Here's what happens. Oh, Oliver Fogg. A few days ago, I asked the knight to tell me the story of Pepin the Short. So, I knocked on the door to his room, but no one answered. Then I went to check the patio, but he wasn't there either. Next, I asked Burton, but she didn't know either.
Whoa.
Um, hmm. I've never rolled Anna and Lee. I've only kind of heard Anna and Lee in other streamers, so let's go with copy that. Copy that. Okay, elongated vowels, rising intonation. Easy la. Easy la. Easy la. Got it. Okay. That's as far as I can get, I think. Thunder, to me! There you go. Okay. Baseline. Ah, I understand, Sir Fogg. So, you want to know where Sir Knight has gone? Well, it is true that I am the very best when it comes to ghost hunting, but Sir Knight is not exactly a ghost. He is more of a haunting character. Apologies. I suppose I don't quite understand your arcane skill, but perhaps you still have a knack for finding people? Oliver Fogg fishes out a few sharperdonties from his pocket. This is work. I know the rules. Ah, he's worried about him. I did not prepare much, but maybe I can pay a deposit first? Huh? What's this? It dawns on her. Ah, how generous. In that case, I will certainly help you. Besides catching ghosts, asking Lord Lauzir for a little decoration is a simple matter. She takes 2 pieces from Oliver's hand. And it is a kind gesture to help out a friend. What was it that Grandma taught me again? Whatever. As long as you truly believe it, that's all that matters. I'm trying my best to mimic the intonation, but it's been a long time since I tried to do a Chinese accent. So just do my best. Anna and Lee cups 3 arcade tokens in her hands, clasping them together and shaking them forcefully. Spirits of heaven and earth. At first, I thought the knight might have been on a mission outside, so I specifically asked Miss Vertin. But Miss Vertin said that a knight hasn't been on any missions recently. But he had asked Vertin for several days of leave. I wonder if he has some important matters to attend to. Yes, I see him. The young ghost hunter begins her soothsaying. Oh, divination. I see that Sir Knight is as he was before. He still loves telling those dreadful jokes. But it seems he has been collecting something recently. They look like small, colorful banners and trumpets. It is not clear to me what he is doing. She stops her hand and examines the answer the coins give.
The first hexagram, lesser yin. The second hexagram, lesser yang. The sixth hexagram, old yin, changing to the hexagram of earth over water. Oh. Hello. Regan also wants in. So now we have 2 dogs in the room.
Anna and Lee fall silent.
Oh,
She has learned her grandma's exaggerated manner of shouting.
oh, oh dear, that is terrible, Sir Fogg.
What does all of this mean?
The hexagram of earth over water shows that Sir Knight is going to war, and that the war will be both unpredictable and hazardous. And this changing of the hexagram shows there may be traitors among Sir Knight's forces, so he must be extra cautious.
Going to war? In the suitcase? This sounds more rather like a tall tale.
The war indicated in the hexagram isn't some mere skirmish.
Is he trapped somewhere? The branches of the potted plant stop the rhythm and begin to tremble. And though perhaps it is only old circuits, the fluorescent lights in the hall begin to flicker faintly. The orange light in the vision pulses slowly, like twilight in a memory. Perhaps... The pair look at each other.
Miss Anne, do you know what era it is outside right now?
Ah. Okay. Well, I guess if you're watching my stream right now for the anecdotes, I can give a minor spoiler for the current chapter. So if you don't want to hear the spoiler, kindly just mute the video and I will let you know when you can come back. Still here? Okay. So, minor spoiler for chapter 6. It turns out the storm does not just reverse time. It also jumps forward in time. So there are periods it can go back and forth to. Which means that all of the events and all of the anecdotes can still continue to be canon with our main timeline because they're all part of one timeline. It just so happens that all the residents in the suitcase are kind of outside of time as the storm kind of pushes it backwards and forwards. So even though the main story right now is supposed to be in 1912, the anecdotes, the events can take place in the 70s, the 60s, and this one I think is taking place in the 8th century. Okay, I'll type in the chat that people can come back. Spoilers over. Alright. Though again, if you're watching the ninth anecdote, I believe you're already caught up on the main story. I hope. Part 3. A Burg of Quips. Indeed, he's never missed an opportunity for a quip. Who is he, Spider-Man? Olin brings out the water that is pooling on the hem of his clothes. Rain again. Where is everyone? The trail left by their attacker had disappeared, and his fellow knights had disappeared along with it. Is this a storm? No, the rain's falling down, not up. So in um we learned that the people who are transported through time cannot interact with the previous versions of themselves. For some reason, the previous versions of themselves are always missing from whatever time they jump into. I'm not sure how that works with the people in their lives if they just like don't show up, but apparently it's like they recognize the person who jumped back as the same person. So maybe they just kind of like take their own place, but they don't change form. So it's a little bit strange, but possibly they will explain later on in the story. So Roland here can't meet the other Roland. Hoofbeats tramps across the mud nearby. He holds his breath and listens. The figure of a knight appears in the distance, causing Roland to draw his sword defensively. Roland? Oh, Roland? Oliver! You nearly drove me out of my wits. Oh, Oliver's namesake. Well, sorry, not Oliver's namesake, but the person that a knight thought of when he was talking to Oliver about someone he admired. So yeah, I guess I'll stick with the voice I gave him just the first time. Uh-huh. Roland mounts his horse, and the pair ride side by side in the rain. So, was it really Ganelon who suggested the Festival of Jokes? He doesn't seem the type to enjoy comedy. Then, no sooner than our comrade had called himself Roland, he was struck dead in the attack. It is as I said, there is great power in a joke. They can inspire morale while marching or on the eve of battle. I can remember many a time when a well-timed joke has done so much to lift the spirits of a weary band. If I may speak out of turn, my friends, I feel I must tell you something. Roland, bosom friend, I think perhaps your jokes serve only one purpose: to inspire a timely retreat. I regret only that my love for comedy as yet outstretches my talent. You should know, I suspect a traitor amongst our fellowship. If they plan to strike again, their next move will be in Pine Pond Forest. They will not make the same mistake twice. We must move with haste. Regardless, I am heartened to see you safe. May our Lord continue to protect you, Rolands. He reaches out to pat his friend's shoulder. But in a flash, Roland draws his sword and swings in a fierce motion towards Oliver's ear.
Shoot!
Shoot! The blade catches the arrow mid-flight, cutting it in twain. Ride for the forest. We'll talk about the rest later. Hearkening to his liege's orders, Oliver bends down, grasping the horse's belly with his legs, and spurs into a gallop towards the forest. But a second arrow reaches them first, piercing Destrier's leg and spilling both horse and rider on the ground. Oliver falls hard on his leg and stays stunned on the ground. It's Oliver! The attacker grins and raises the sword in his hand. His head won't be as valuable as Roland. Still. The lumbering figure's shadow engulfs Oliver's body.
Please,
Careful!
cautious.
Roland rides swiftly, holding high his everlasting sword. With a single stroke, he cleaves the shadow in two. A short, stiff cry gives way to the sudden wash of warm liquid that spills out over Oliver. Damn it. Why are you retreating? There are but two of them. Ugh! There's sudden coldness in the attacker's throat. His vision begins to spin, a dizzying sensation as he falls to the ground. From the ground, he sees his own headless corpse, slouching off the back of his horse. Quick! Oliver! Take my hand! The salt from the blood is stinging his eyes. Oliver forces them to open. In the blurred vision, He catches sight of Roland's figure and reaches out his hand towards
Watch
him.
out!
They'll be expecting us to move forward, further into their ambush. Don't follow the path they're driving us towards. Go around. Roland grabs his comrade and hoists him up onto his horse.
Someone hears and obeys.
Someone hears and obeys. Not to worry, young Oliver. I'm no fresh squire. The horse carries two knights deep into the forest. The rain grows heavier, and its rhythmic tapping gradually swallows up all other sounds. Ah, this little cave here will serve as an able refuge to the rain.
It's dangerous.
A cave? Perhaps you should check inside for wild beasts first. The pain still keeps him seeing straight. No need to fret. We'll be safe in here. Come now. Let's see about your shoulder and leg. They stash themselves in the hollow cave, lying down on a bed of damp green moss. Roland draws his long sword and severs the shaft of an errant arrow, still clinging harmlessly to his armor.
Hmm?
Did you hear those hooves? Not far in distance. Almost 20 men were chasing us. Every one of them equipped with armor, swords, and a cordon of arrows.
Yes.
But we are still alive, Oliver. So, there is danger here, Roland. It is not just about our immediate crisis. Someone wants you to die here. An eerie silence falls over the forest, as if the rain has hushed itself. Oliver, look.
What?
What? There's an arachne. Oliver's neck goes rigid. It is a venomous spider critter, one that prefers to nest in damp spaces. He looks slow in the direction of Roland's gaze. Roland has folded his hands together, shaping them like a spider, crawling through the air. Roland! Oliver cannot stand anymore. He slams his fist down hard on the ground.
Enough!
How many times do you have to tell you? These jokes of yours are not funny. Our foes number 20 at least, likely more with reinforcements, and there are only 2 of us.
Why?
Tell me how you manage to ensure these horrid jokes in a situation like this. I thought you needed something to raise your mood. It's only managed to raise my ire. Roland, my liege, allow me to suggest what we should do now. A plan is forming in his mind, one that seems to ease his pain. They know that you were to reach Brittany today, but they did not know that I would here to receive you.
So...
If the worst should come to pass, you may be able to escape by wearing my cloak. There was a second flash of genius on his face.
Yes.
Yes. This could well be our best opportunity to expose a traitor. But the traitor's identity is not difficult for him to guess. He has known the answer for a while. Galanon? It is a sound plan, young Oliver. But I refuse it. If I should do as you say, then only one of us can leave. A plan that lets one of us escape is better than both of us dying here. Don't tell me you're going out there by yourself. A familiar trumpet sounds far in distance. Enemies! Friends! They shout in a clashing unison. Huh.
Forgive someone for asking.
Oh. Forgive someone for asking. Did that arrow hit your ear after all? That was clear as day the sound of Lady O'Dare's trumpet call. A trumpet is just an instrument. Anyone can blow it. Besides, what if O'Dare has been captured? What if the attackers and O'Dare simply have the same sort of trumpet? Forget it then. There is no use arguing about something you can hear with your own ears. Besides, if not Order, who else would blow a trumpet like that? She is your sister, and you still cannot recognize her?
But...
That may be her, yes, but is it not prudent to consider the other possibilities?
Indeed, I did not question His Majesty's decree, but seeing you, our Lord Margrave, reduced to hiding in a cave, I must admit my fear for the future of Brittany. Oh, is that a skeleton? Headless skeleton? No. It's a pair of gloves holding a floating sword.
The Margrave. It dawns on him.
Yes.
You have the right of it. You have the right of it.
Great.
Great. Then we do as I suggested.
Is Oliver the traitor?
Oh, he called him Margrave. But he wasn't supposed to know that he was going to become the Margrave, right? Only the knights that were with him were supposed to know. Knight Oliver, I order you to stay here. Bonjour. Comment allez-vous? Once danger is gone and you are able, you will travel to Brittany and relay what has happened here. Should events transpire that lead to my death, I will recommend that you succeed me as the Margrave of Brittany. Don't worry, I'll pen a letter to His Majesty, listing a few of the reasons for making Sir Oliver your trusted Margrave. I'll use all the most colorful rhetoric at my disposal. I think you've confused the situation for a fairy tale, my Lord Margrave. Suppose you die out there, Roland, on whatever fool heroic you're planning, and I survive to present your letter of recommendation to His Majesty's court. What do you earnestly think they would do if I were to show up in your place? I am very sure, after reading through my glowing recommendation, they would grant you the title of Margrave of Brittany.
Maybe.
I see now why His Majesty so appreciates your honest nature, Sir Roland. But think seriously. Surely they would start to wonder why I decided to ride out to meet you. And the why-fors and whens of how you died, and how it came to be that there was no one else around to witness your death. If I were then to present a letter of your recommendation, how would it be received? You were suggesting they would think you forced a letter, perhaps even that you orchestrated this ambush. You think too poorly of His Majesty's court. The paladins of Charlemagne are good and just. Roland, you can't just split people into simple categories of good and evil. People are complicated, and men of power are more complicated still. You should know better than I do. Besides, he falls silent again. The weight of the accusation bore on him. To accuse one of their brethren of treachery, he hesitates to continue. Roland pats his shoulder. Go on.
I think that.
The traitor must be one of the other paladins, one of your brothers in Charlemagne's court. A sharp stab of pain throbs in his shoulder. Oliver takes a deep breath before continuing. Oh, okay, no. I guess I was wrong. It's Ganelon, of Mainz. Roland breaks into a grin. That is reassuring, Oliver. You finally learn how to make a joke. Oh, don't misunderstand. Don't misunderstand. There is weight to your speculation. But it is a matter of proof. The trumpet sounds out once again, now much closer than before. Before long, a party of knights emerged from the surrounding forest, led by a woman. Oh, Sir Roland, how did you end up here? Don't worry, old friends. My man made short work of your would-be assassins. We even managed to seize them alive, the lion's share at any rate. The both of you look worse for wear. We must make for the castle quickly. But first, a question. What did the blanket say to the bed?
Roland answers without missing a beat. I've got you covered.
Aha! Precisely. I've got you covered. Sorry for the ad, everyone.
I delayed too much, and we still got caught by it. The rain washes down the narrow streets of the castle town. It's gonna go ahead and let the ad play. Wait for that. And while we are waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and check on the streams I'm lurking in. See if any of them have ended. Oh, still going, still going. Nice. We're still a ways off from the end of our stream here, but I'm hoping we'll be rating to someone who plays Reverse 1999, or is currently playing anyway. But we'll see. Anything could happen. Guess I could raid randomly. I just don't know if anyone's playing Reverse tonight, is the thing. Nagahawak ating kamay at walang kamalay-malay na tinuruan mo ang puso ko nang umibig ng tunay. Oh, there's like 4 people. Four people streaming Reverse right now. Oh. Continuing on. The smells of blood from the butcher shop, of ammonia from the tannery, and the reek of old sweat that had long lingered there are swept out by the arrival of the rain. But no pleasant scent of earth and stone greets her. The reek of fish clings on wet weather, as bits of fish covered in scales float on the puddles of her odorous feet. We need someone charismatic to lead the interrogation. May I propose the Knight of Asterford? Should he fail to win them over with charm, then we must rely on Lord Reynard to break them. But to have these 2 noblemen come to interrogate a prisoner. No. There's no need to involve them, my lady. We have our own manner of guile to make the brigand talk. For now, let us take Roland to rest. I believe the journey has finally caught up to him. Roland at last, exhausted from his journey in battle, begins to slump in his saddle. The voice around him grows fainter, until all sound blends with the patter of the rain. He closes his eyes, and darkness swallows everything like a tide. Wah! The 2 of them barge through the door and tumble into the sunlit room.
Oh, hello.
Oh, you have some visitors. Hello.
Whoa.
Hi, Regan.
Ah, Sir Knight, so you have been in your room this whole time. Then all that fuss about the lights was just old circuits. Miss Burton should hire an electrician.
There is no need for concern. Someone is here, as they have been for some time. Apple can attest to this. We prefer to use just that sunlight in this room, as it created a very dramatic lighting effect for Mr. Knight. we are holding a bit of a storytelling session. Quite so. Someone was just in the middle of a story about Sir Roland. However, Sir Apple here seems to believe that one's storytelling skills are lacking. Someone has been attempting to portray the figure of a knight named Roland in order to immerse the audience in the moment. The knight's gauntlet spread and lower on both sides, approximating a theatrical bow.
Someone is profoundly honored.
Someone is profoundly honored. I can't get a read on a knight's accent. I thought it was French, but it sounds close to the British, but like not the same inflections. Oh well. Someone is pleased that you happened by. Oh, now we're at the end. Sheesh. After the ad plays. Okay, how many chapters do we got? 4. Okay. We got time. Part 4. Decoration. They're not useless. They're an important part of the festive atmosphere. Excuse me. Part 4. Decoration. They're not useless. They're an important part of the festive atmosphere. You wanna go out? Okay. Bye. Since you're here, please take a seat. Someone could use a more enthusiastic audience for this tale. Just Miss Sotheby's room is filled with collector's edition Typhon dolls, and Miss Turner's TV plays the night show all night. In this room, there are various items that highlight their owner's tastes. Weapons in their scabbards and a yellowed book on one desk, recognizable from the cover as a collection of very old jokes. In the corner stands a large pot of lard, and next to it, the fireplace is burning low.
Sir Knight, you can't put fat next to a flame. It'll catch fire.
Don't worry, Miss Anne. This flame is only memory. It is constant, gentle, and does not produce heat nor possess a desire to burn anything. A knight touches the flame with his hand, and he nuzzles his fingers like a tame colt.
Well, that proves it, Sir Knight. Of course you aren't afraid of being burnt. You're only a suit of armor.
On one side of the room, there is a pile of torrid trumpets. The desk is covered in colorful flags. Too many, perhaps, rendering a messy scene. A nimble hand grasps a carving of a green bird, gently adjusting its orientation. Huh. Interesting.
What are all these ornaments for? Have you considered rearranging them? The feng shui of this room has a lot to be desired.
These are all things someone has prepared in anticipation of the Comic Night Festival.
Yes, Ensign, you want to go out also? Okay, bye. Come on.
The Comic Night Festival.
Yes.
An event inspired by an old friend. Simply put, this is a joke-telling festival. Everyone sits around together, drawing lots to take turns telling their jokes. If you can't come up with a joke, then you must tell an interesting story instead. As for this wooden carving, there is a mechanism one can find at the bottom. A knight touches out a finger and lightly fiddles with tail feathers. The small bird begins to move, rocking backwards and forwards. After a moment, the yellowish beak stops in front of Oliver Fogg. If this were the Comic Night Festival, the next speaker would be Oliver Fogg. It sounds as if it would be a half-bad event, but everyone here has so many of their own matters to attend to. Miss Verton almost never has time off because of this storm. I can't imagine most people have time to attend a comedy festival. Though,
Certainly, this place could use a little levity,
Yes.
Sundare. It is precisely because the state of these things that someone felt inspired to recreate this old festival. It has not gone unnoticed that to anyone, let alone someone, that the laughter and smiles that once frequented this hall have now all but disappeared. Someone was recounting to Mr. Apple one's recollection of the tales of ancient knights and the origins of the festival.
Interesting.
Someone hoped that these stories could be shared to help everyone regain a sense of humor in the face of great danger, or, if nothing less, provide some momentary distraction.
Whoa.
Oh, so not just jokes, but storytelling too?
Hmm?
Another event to add to the Comic Night Festival. This apple certainly hopes it will inspire our friends to hear these tales of our knightly heroics. Undoubtedly so. Someone recalls a story that was recounted to Mr. X some short while ago. In that story, a slightly reckless knight, Sir Roland, along with his good friend Oliver, paid a visit to Bramimond, Queen of the Moors. The journey was fraught with difficulty, but fortunately came to a happy ending. Sunlight scatters against the floor as a breeze blows through the treetops.
Someone is reminded of some things in the past.
Yeah, I guess his voice is closer to a British accent, the way he pronounced past. Would you think of the past? Past. Okay, I'll have to switch it up a little bit here, but it does give me a better idea of how to voice a knight. Such fine weather makes someone think of ancient times past, on a sunny day in the south of province. Back then, someone would often share a drink with old friends, whiling away the afternoon.
Thou hast someone's admiration.
Thou hast someone's admiration. One of them was a very heroic woman, one whom someone greatly admired. Among her greatest feats was when she fought a battle against a giant named Felget. But the records of history do not record much of her story, a travesty most deeply unfair. In fact, Sir Roland was involved in the battle as well. Someone recalls it vividly, a dramatic tale, which Miss Charlie herself suggested may make a fine piece of theatre. If you would, someone would very much like to perform it with you. Okay, so that was an intermission number. Back into the past. Gotta get back, back to the past, samurai Jack, 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 Jack. Gotta get back, back to the past, samurai Jack, 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 Jack. Gotta get back, back to the past, samurai Jack. Gotta get back, back to the past, samurai Jack. Gotta get back, back to the past, samurai Jack. Part 5. Thorny is the way. My fair blade lies tied at my waist. Lady O'Dare is a brave and wise woman. Someone thought it would be an ideal role for Miss Anne. The other character of this play is the brave knight called Roland.
Yes.
At that time, Sir Roland was still just a youth, rather alike in age to Sir Oliver now. Oliver fought his timepiece conspicuously.
All right.
If I must, but may I remind you that this is my leisure time. I am under no obligation to stay. So, I caution you not to make this little play of yours too long. Naturally, this will be but a short but glorious story of a brave and noble woman. As for the giant Felgert, he was 15 feet tall, morbidly rotund,
mangy and bald. A knight looks around the room. Unfortunately, of those present here, only a knight can be said to be of comparable stature to the grotesque giant. It falls reluctantly upon someone's shoulders to take on the role of the gruesome Felgets.
Hmm?
And what of brave and true Sir Apple? The players run short of speaking roles. But I recall Felgard often threw rocks, as a means of attack. Knowing that Sir Apple is well versed in special effects, someone swears not to toss you too roughly. In that case, this Apple would prefer to work behind the scenes. Perhaps you are in need of a lighting technician.
Someone will be eternally grateful.
Ah, superb, sir. As Mr. Charlie has said, Miss Charlie said, a skilled light technician can add much to the story. Add tremendous value to a play. Now, someone will act as your humble narrator. At the beginning of the show, Lady Odeur was not yet a knight. Yet, she was born to a noble family of great esteem. Indeed, someone's own close friend, the knight, Sir Oliver, was born to their house. At this time, high-born ladies could choose to wear luxurious dresses, whiling their hours away in the market with their ladies, living as dainty things capable of fainting at a moment's notice. Or, they could choose to familiarize themselves with Latin, but they might recite sculpture. They would learn proper etiquette and ballroom dancing to be fit as a properly studied lady. But no matter their choices, their Lord Father, who held the true power of decision over them, worried over only one thing. That is, how he might marry them off properly and advantageously. Miss Anne, stand tall. You will not be so fragile as delicate ladies, for Lady Odeur is of an entirely different sort. She was an unruly child, who only grew in her rebellion and courage, despite the sighing protestations of her mother. Huh. That's something I've been curious about for a while now, because we've been dealing with this alternate history of the Arcanist this whole time. I've kind of wondered if societies were still like patriarchal in most cultures, in most um, traditions here throughout this alternative history where magic is real. But at least here in 8th century Britain, and in doing an inference forward, we can kind of surmise that yeah, some masculine and patriarchal traditions are still unfortunately in place throughout this alternative history.
Is that so? Yeah.
Bravo! A swift and powerful thrust. That is indeed more like Lady Odette. But her father had little patience for her rebellious ways. He resolved that he must arrange a marriage for her early, before her rebellious spirit set in too deep, for to him, her value was nothing more than what she could bring him as a bride. To him, a noble daughter was like a Bordeaux wine, or a ruby red as pigeon's blood. Huh. That's real sad. Things that he sneered upon as a frivolous fantasy behind closed doors, yet, nonetheless had to rely on to maintain the prestige of his noble house. Messengers wore out their shoes with their coming and going, until her father struck a deal with some far-flung nobleman he had never even met, so that after the coming of Our Lady Odair's 16th year, she would be wed to an aged lord well past his 50s. A rich old creep like that must have paid a king's ransom. Roland, you're not on yet. Does someone need to remind you of the importance of quiet on set? This story does not foreclose the exact terms of the arrangement, but it is said that during that time, Lady Odair's father began to exhibit behavior quite different from usual. It may well be that to increase one's worldly possessions is to enhance one's self-esteem. For during those days, our Lord Father seems to have taken on an air of levity and laughter, smiling even on sights that would once set him to rage. Come on in, Ensign. Until one morning, when the laughter faded. For Lady Odair had run away towards Brittany, leaving her father only a letter. One can hardly blame her, though I, for one, hope that she'd chop off the old man's head, given the old Cromwell treatment.
Interesting.
An intriguing plot suggestion, to be sure. In those days, the journey to Brittany was fraught with all manner of dangers. For, in addition to the rougher sorts one may find in Brittany, one could also chance upon a roving band of Saxons, Lombards, or Saracens at any time. Fortunately, our heroine was an able rider, the equal of any inexperienced knight. And so it was that someone first laid eyes upon Lady Odair, just as she arrived at the gates of the castle of Brittany. She still wore the gown of a noble lady, though her skirts had been torn in the bushes. Of that rough country. She still wore the gown of a noble lady, though her skirts had been torn in the bushes of that rough country. Her many days of riding left her in utter exhaustion, so that as she leaped from the saddle, she nearly stumbled on the ground. But her eyes shone brightly as a tempered blade. Miss Anne, this is your cue.
Oh, are you Sir Roland? I see nothing so special about you as to be worthy of your fame.
In her words, if not yet her deeds, she would soon transform from a young woman into a warrior. I must admit, she proved an unparalleled talent in battle. During those years in Brittany, she joined us in countless battles, winning one victory after another. Her achievements were remarkable. Her feats became a most dazzling gem on a scepter, impossible for any to ignore. There had been no precedent for a woman warrior such as her, but after much deliberation, the cardinals agreed to grant her knighthood. However, the day before the ceremony, she bade Sir Roland to free her from her service. Why?
Sir Roland, I beg you to forgive me, but I cannot attend the ceremony.
Why? Is it not your greatest dream to become a knight? Getting those old-fashioned cardinals to agree to knight a woman was no easy feat.
Do you remember my lord father, Roland? He has learned that I was in Brittany and has been writing to me, urging me to return so that I might fulfill my long-neglected duties. He has sent me another letter, a final warning, saying that if I continue in my rebellion, he will send his champion, the giant Felgert, to ask me to come home. You can see how he describes this terrible giant in his letter. 15 feet tall, covered in scabies and pustules. He keeps the company of witches and has impenetrable skin. So then, you'll do as he wishes and return home? A most stirring performance, Miss Anne, but we must see your smile. Let it be fierce and true. Superb. The exact emotion on display. Sir Roland, for as many years as we have fought side by side, It is a pity you did not know me better.
Mr. Apple. Mr. Apple, the time has come for you to begin the scene of the climactic battle against the giant. Please, adjust the brightness of the stage light. A bit brighter still, if you please. For the sky that day was a stark and brilliant blue, dotted with white clouds floating above like a silken canopy. A day that someone turns to often in memory.
I see.
Aye, aye. So concludeth the Epistle. Part 6. Chase, chase, chase away, until the road's end is also left behind. I know what a pestle is. What's an epistle? I feel like I've heard this term before. Oh! A poem or other literary work in the form of a letter or series of letters. It is also a book in the New Testament of the Bible. So yeah, that's where I know it from. But epistles, if I remember from my studies, um, they were letters written to a specific group of people by one of the apostles in the Bible, trying to convert them into the Christian faith. If I remember my history correctly or my Bible study correctly. Yeah, for those who don't know, I'm a born and raised and still practicing devout Roman Catholic. Though of course, other people are welcome to their beliefs. These are just my own. So I have some knowledge of references to any historical any historical references to Christian or Catholic history. I was gonna say like mythology, but that's not quite right. Ha ha ha! Evil giants, tremble in fear, for today you shall meet Sir Roland in the fields. Now, your device's luck has run thin. Now your devil's luck has run thin. Mr. Knight, are you entirely sure this is Sir Roland's line? Someone reminds you that Sir Roland then was still a spirited young man. It was time now to face the giant. The giant was just a letter worn and more. The giant was just a letter worn and more, for Felgert was of a monstrous height, and his bare skin was covered with mange and pustules. Allow me! Sir Roland spurred his horse onwards, and charged Felgert. Mr. Knight, how can I spur my horse? Do you see any horses about? A fair point indeed. Perhaps someone will seek the aid of Mr. Darleyclatter to play the role of Roland's steed. Yet, in the meantime, you need to only pretend to be riding a horse. As you say your next line. Bedeviled giants, today you face your doom. Sir Roland cried out at the pinnacle of his charge, as he raised the everlasting sword high and brought it down on the giant's ankle. The blade collided with the giant's ankle, sliding as if across a sheet of uneven metal, sending forth a shower of yellow sparks. The blow had left the giant entirely unharmed. It served only to set the brute into a fitful anger. The giant reached out his hand, snatching Roland away from his horse, and held him high in the air. Frightened, his war horse ran off in distance, never to be seen again. Just as the battle looked to be lost, Lady Yore furrowed her brow, drew her long sword and charged. Ah! She leaped from her horse high into the air, and drew a long slash across Felgred's bulbous belly. Accompanying her strike came the self-same shower of yellow sparks. But this time, the giant let out a gurgling hiss of pain. The navel! The navel! Sir Roland shouted breathlessly. Yore heard him and turned to look at Felgred. There had been no trace of damage in her slash across Felgred's belly, save for a hint of blood around his putrid belly button.
Whoa.
Aha! I have found the heel of Achilles!
Lady Yore's heart filled with hope as she thought. Lady Yore's hope filled with thought. I keep forgetting I'm doing the narrator, but as a knight, so I should be doing a knight's voice, not the narrator voice that I usually do. Lady Yore's heart filled with hope at the thought, and she raised her sword again. But the giant's rage was directed elsewhere. His grip on Roland began to tighten. Sir Roland gave out an agonized scream. Ah! But Yore's sword proved the swifter tool, as she pierced the giant's navel in the nick of time. The Goliath shuddered and collapsed. But in death, the giant's fingers remained tightly wrapped around the knight, and blood ran down his knuckles. Yore withdrew her sword from the belly of the giant. They had won the duel. Mr. Apple, the story is finished. You may lower the lights. The lights fade. What do you think of the story? It ended too soon. Your Lady Yore defeated the giant. She should go back to be honored for her accomplishment and become a true knight. Really, you've omitted the most crucial part. Perhaps some ivory tower snobs might appreciate your ambiguity, but the masses will demand a satisfactory end for your heroine. And here is Oliver being like, oh, I can't stay long. Don't make me stay for longer than I have to. And yet, he's staying to offer criticism. Because he wants to hear more of the story. What a cute kid.
I agree. The story ends too soon. Lady Yore deserves more of her tale. She should return to the castle and be generously rewarded with land and riches. With enough wealth of her own, she might go back and build her own house, that she could have a new future away from her father.
I confess, sadly, that Lady Yore never was to be knighted, for even after besting the giant, she chose to leave Brittany. She carried on, ever dedicated to the life of freedom she had long sought. She traveled far and wide across the land in those days, and when she could, she would write to Sir Roland and Oliver recounting her adventures. She won a castle in the duel, and ever unwilling to be tied to the land, she chose to distribute its treasure among the local peasants, a story that persists in legend. Later still, she met Lady Burg, with whom she shared many interests. They became lifelong friends and the closest of confidants. Oh! Were they just friends though, or... Well, I guess we'll find out. Or maybe we won't. Maybe that's just for them to know. Of course. Of course. Her letters were the source of much inspiration, and many of someone's greatest jokes. Someone cannot truly know if Lady Yore was satisfied with this ending. Yet, it is enough to say the story is true. Although, it must be confessed, for ease of narration, some slight adjustments were made. Boo. A nice little audience are clearly unhappy with this ending. A knight seems to pause, as if taken at the loss of words. Even if I disagree with the institution of landed nobility on principle, I see no reason why she couldn't have been knighted before she goes off on her travels.
And, if nothing else, why was she never given a reward for killing that giant? That is not fair. Oh, we're already at the last chapter. Okay. We still have 20 minutes till the next ad runs, because I was able to snooze it a lot. And knowing the anecdote so far, chapter 7 is either going to be extremely short or extremely long. But, like, I doubt it'll be 20 minutes long. So, I think we should be able to cover it. Part 7, A Jes Anew. An enduring joke of the 8th century. The old story has ended, and a new one is about to begin. The undying flames of the candles cast warm yellow halos on the faces of the audience. It would be best to move on. Allow someone to introduce the rules of the Comic Night Festival. First, there is need of a large space, one big enough for all the participants to gather around. The hall in the suitcase may prove suitable. Perhaps someone ought to ask Merton's permission, as she is the owner of the suitcase.
Whoa.
Alright, it sounds like it'll be fun.
Each participant needs to prepare some jokes. Any kind will do. Then, this little green bird will decide the order of show. Simply put, whoever the bird's beak points to will be the next to tell their joke. Oh, spin the bottle. I see. A knight points his gauntlet towards the little bird. Someone has not arranged this gathering with so many friends in many centuries. It must go over well. Someone must make sure of that. Yet, fashions and fads change with the seasons. How can anyone keep up with the latest comedic wit? Someone had hoped to acquire new material worthy of the upcoming festival.
Sir, you are right that fashion has changed. Maybe I can help. I think that these days, people like to hear ghost stories. You should try telling a joke that involves ghosts.
Hee
Hee. Something that might be both scary and funny.
A knight does not reply. The armor sits motionless, with a hand posing under an invisible chin. This apple once heard Miss Titer tell a joke about apples. Nowadays,
You are worthless in IT unless you have a bite.
I see. I got that one. This apple still doesn't quite understand the joke, but Miss Titer sure seems to enjoy it. Sorry. John Teeter? Nah, not Titer. Teeter. Oh well. Programming, ghost stories. It's all dull. The only thing that makes me smile these days is on a kind vacation. Oliver Fogg shrugs, staring distantly out the window before returning. Still, out of desperation, out of deepest respect to you, I will join in on your joke festival. Well, at least being a bit more honest. Even though he's clearly interested.
Someone is profoundly honored.
Someone is profoundly honored. Someone could not help but feel honored. A discussion on stories and comedy soon begins to wind down, as the sky of the suitcase fades from sunset into darkness.
Sir Knight, I have to go. I have a field deployment tomorrow morning. I must leave as well.
Fare thee well, friends. Someone hopes that the coming festival will not disappoint. The young guests shuffled their way out of the room, more content than it arrived. The lights flicker, and the room falls quiet for a time. Mr. Apple, you are the only one who heard both stories. How do they connect?
Forgive someone for asking.
If you were to compare them, which story did you like more? Miss Apple preferred the story in which Sir Roland visited the Queen of Moors. Why do you think that, sir? It seems you intend to create a light, humorous, and lively atmosphere for the story of Lady O'Dare. But whether you claim it to be the truth or not, its all too quick and sappy resolution clearly tells another tale. What's a pity? So, what was the truth of her ending? No! The everlasting sword has failed to pierce Felgard's body in time. Doing his best to control his trembling hands, he draws his sword out from the crumpled giant's belly, inch by inch. Then, summoning all his courage, he looks toward the giant's right hand. Oh, he switched their roles. The brute's hands are balled in a tight fist, and crimson blood drips down his knuckles. Because a knight, if a knight was already, a suit of armor, or even if he was always suit of armor, he wouldn't bleed like this. There is no life stirring within the bald hand, but no sign of Lady O'Dare either. O'Dare. For a moment, he feels some hope rising within him once more. With what strength he has left, he searches for any sign of O'Dare in the fields around him. The giant of stone is stone. Now only the wind remains with him standing in the field. A bird flies up from the edge of the field, carrying O'Dare's ribbon in its beak, soaring away into the vast blue sky. The bird is green, with long tail feathers, but its belly has been painted in a hauntingly crimson. The bird is green, with long tail feathers, but its belly has been painted in a hauntingly familiar crimson. My Lord Margrave, we found a letter among O'Dare's effects. It was addressed to you. Sir Roland, if you're reading this letter, then I have reached the end of my journey. I must confess a secret, for Oliver confided in me that he has always enjoyed our jokes. Please don't be cross, Sir Oliver. I could not bear to go to my death without revealing a punchline. Roland, should you ever mention me to anyone, please make sure there's a fitting ending to my story. One fit for me. Believe me, I'll hear about it. I wish you good spirits, humor, and happiness always, a knight. So a knight couldn't bring himself to give her a happy ending. But he did give her an ending, at least. Less tragic. Gotta go for the conference call? Right, best of luck, Cairo. Thanks for stopping by. Sir Apple, as an educated fellow, you must have read the Greek tragedies. The greatest of them, the most tragic, came from those who made no mistake but suffered anyways. Someone has always had a soft spot for tragedy. Something about the darkness of true tragedy speaks to a young knight. Truly, it seems to me that young knights would prefer Truly, it seems to this Apple that young knights would prefer courtly romances and the tales of dashing knight-errants. You may think so, but in that time, those legends were only just being written, and it was the old knights who appreciated them. Perhaps because it allowed them to reminisce, or perhaps they enjoyed mocking the false endings the minstrels would invent. And they would compare, over grumbles, the rewards written about in those tales with those of their own. It seemed that the imaginary monarchs were so often more generous than the real ones. No, it seemed that the younger knights and squires preferred tragedy. Perhaps it was a fashion, or something that came upon them because so many had never seen true battle. Perhaps for them it played to their... Today it might be called teenage angst. Perhaps it was a longing for meaning. The younger man's foolish wish to die as a hero, rather than an old man.
Yes.
Yes, longing. Their eyes said as much. Without a doubt, many yearn for war. Minstrels plucked the lyre, their tongues as smooth as silk, painting war as a grand spectacle in their songs. In the stories, blood would weave into a scarred ribbon. Knights only needed to don it, and gold and glory would rain down upon them. Sir Roland once believed that as well, until the Battle of Roncesvalles Pass. Until the Battle of Roncesvalles Pass. The story of that battle is the last recorded tale of Roland in history. Sir Oliver had joined the ranks of the rearguard, standing alongside Sir Roland. He advised against the stand they made that day. No, I will speak the truth. It was more than that. He was afraid. He had always been more adept at the strategist than a warrior. But the situation in that battle had grown dire, with thousands of enemies surrounding them. The life of their sovereign was hanging in the balance of their action. So, he had to take up arms and charge ahead. In the heavy melee, his face was wounded, and he lost his sight. Sir Roland saw that he was injured, and fought his way through the bass to get close to him, intending to offer assistance. But he mistook Sir Roland for an attacking enemy, and struck him with his sword. What happened next? A knight turns towards the window. Allow someone to continue in the role of Sir Roland. Mr. Apple adjusts the lighting appropriately. The story turns again to that day at twilight, as the battle unfolds in a distant land in a narrow pass. There in that valley, the warrior Maganus comes galloping in on his war horse, his lance ready. He charges the lines of Sir Roland's men, riding with such speed that the point of his lance pierces straight and true through shield and hauberk, through and out the body of a young knight. Oliver! Sir Roland scrambles for Oliver's side. The young man's injuries are severe, his body growing colder and stiffer by the moment. Any knight knows perfectly well that there was no chance of a wound such as this. There were to be no miracles for Sir Oliver. His body was like a shattered clay pot, the flowing water of life pouring out from within. Sir Roland would remember his last words this very day. He said, "What do you say when you find a deer without any eyes?" It was a terrible joke, and yet someone laughed. Was that not one of your adaptations? So, earlier in the story, a knight mentioned that the reason for his jokes would be to boost morale, and Oliver argued the reason for a joke is only one, and that's to sound the retreat. I think he was telling him to run away. No. This happened exactly as it was said. Someone was among that proud host of knights that day. Every word of it is written indelibly on someone's soul. My deepest condolences, then, Mr. Apple, you needn't apologize. Sir Oliver's deeds of valor have endured. For him too, death is far from the end. Someone must state their earnest belief that there is far greater power in comedy than most imagine. Someone surely believes that the suitcase could have used more levity in these dark times. So, would you be willing to participate in the next Comic Night Festival? The festival date will be set on February 29. Someone will eagerly await your reply. It's a leap year. Humility, honesty, mercy, valor, justice, sacrifice, honor, soul. And of course, a bit of humor. The end. And that was a crash course in humor. Okay. Gotta say, like most folks, I wasn't really sure about why a knight would be included in this wonderful roster that we have. Everyone has such interesting stories, and a knight just seems like, well, kind of the archetype of what you would expect from a knight, you know?
Bonjour.
Like, why would they make him a 6-star? Why would they make him one of the first characters you can get? But after Oliver Fogg's anecdotes, and especially after seeing through his own personal
If
anecdote,
it doesn't stop raining, someone will be the first knight to sacrifice his life.
it makes sense why he's a 6-star character and he is so valued as a character in the fandom. I really enjoy this story. We all need a bit of levity, and we're all drawn towards tragedy. Well, maybe not all. The point is, humans need stories for escape, for relatability, to learn from. And the knight here is offering probably the greatest gift you can offer anyone. The opportunity not just to hear a story, but to tell it. And that's, in a way, immortality. The closest we can get for now. And as I sign you off, keep in mind and remember that Decaf Videos can Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial Share Alike 4.0 International License. Off you get. You can ring my bell,